I think you know after a period of time where you sit.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think for anyone listening there's lots of people in the world that don't know where they're going or don't know where they are. Just, back yourself a little bit and do that. Even if you're not in the position that you necessarily want to be in now, give it 3-5 years, and that might sound quite a long time to some people, but there's so many little iterations of your personality that's developing.
Welcome back to the Take a Chance on You podcast, hosted by me, Alexandra Forsyth. Today I am joined by Cameron Wenham, who is the head of marketing at TechFellow. Cameron, how are you doing?
Very good, very excited.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, do you know what,
and we're in the studio.
It's so weird because we've spent so many hours talking to each other on Teams, on Google. This is a bit different and very cool.
Today we're going to talk a little bit with Cameron about TechFellow and what you're doing in the marketing recruitment space. Do you want to give the listeners just a little bit of a rundown?
Sure. So I am the head of comms and marketing at TechFellow. One of my roles, and I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, is presenting the Defender's Journal, writing it back to front, which is a very cool, and I feel very privileged to be able to do it. We interview the world's best cybersecurity professionals, CISOs, the Chief Information Security Officers, and those kind of who sit in and around them. Our aim really is to uncover the individual behind the job title, and that's always what we try to do. So we're stripping back. It's not too technical. It's simply trying to connect those starting off their journeys in cybersecurity, and our listener age range is between 18 and 65.
Yeah.
So that's our podcast. As a firm, we are recruitment specialists for the top 1% and 2% of technologists globally, focusing on, I'd say, 3 or 4 main areas: AI, machine learning, which I know we'll touch on. The whole world is touching on it.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity, which is a big one, where the podcast ties into that. Software development, and then trading infrastructure stuff. So yeah, we work with leading FS firms, fintech firms, and we are expanding our client portfolio every day or every week.
Talk to me about how is it going in terms of the market right now? Any trends that you're seeing?
There are many. I mean, from a cybersecurity point of view, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much. I know that's where you've lived previously. I think everything goes in cycles. So identity access management, that's it. There's a 2-yearly cycle there. You're talking about kind of DLP, the data protection stuff with AI, Gen AI, and the opportunism around deep faking. That's becoming a massive area of concern. And we have, with our own podcast, we have intro calls with our guests, and then we go on to record maybe 2 weeks later. And in that 2-week period, sometimes and very often, the questions will change, or the themes will change, because so much has changed in that 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a completely
It's crazy,
approach.
really, because I always think with cyber, AI, and anything to do with digital transformation, 2 weeks can feel like 3 to 6 months, really, as you say, in terms of trends and how the landscape is evolving.
The conversations that we have with leading execs across the world, there are 3 things I would say that we bank on for the best candidates to have, which is proof, passion, and then pedigree. Pedigree, traditionally, probably would be a leading education or something like that. Now, I think out of our many clients, 10, 50, 100, I would say only 3 or 4 really bank on that level of academic prowess. Let's put it that way. Now, when you're building your own tools, that to them, I think is a differentiator, because a lot of what you're passionate about, and if you've got a GitHub profile, let's say for a developer, or you've got a home lab and you're developing loads of different solutions, inherently you are automatically using tools that are being driven and are at the forefront of AI evolution and innovation. And so that is giving, I think, any candidate going into the world, and it's a completely saturated and completely competitive space. So I think the industry are asking quite a lot, and this is a broader thing, but it's tough. It's tough, and to stand out and to be ahead of the curve, you have to think ahead of the curve.
And myself and Cameron, we've spoken about this before. Generationally, times are changing as well. I mean, trends coming out of Gen Alpha, who are up to the age of 16 now, they'll be entering the workforce with us sooner rather than later. And they're learning about pitching, entrepreneurship, leadership. They're using AI and digital tech a lot more than we are. Experimentation is huge for younger generations. So it's just so much shift, and that will impact obviously recruitment and marketing now in 2026 and then in the next few years.
Yeah, I think, again, all of these conversations fall back to the soft skills, and I think the development of soft skills generation to generation looks so different. And the not even say the ability to communicate, the communication channels and strategies and processes, all of those things look completely different.
Yeah.
So I think there will be a time of reflection, but it will be embedded into the processes that already exist and the systems that already exist. And it will have to be thought about proactively. Now, I don't actually know what that looks like, to be honest. And I think, again, with the scale and the pace of evolution, that will change from next month to next year.
So what made you want to get into marketing and now recruitment? Because you studied business at university.
I did.
So something entirely different.
I did.
Which always seems to be the way.
I suppose there are some overlaps between business and marketing. I see marketing, and I'll go into my philosophy a little bit later. I see it more as a facilitator for sales rather than its traditional, maybe brand awareness focus. Now, don't get me wrong, that is important, but I see it as a spin-off or as an impact of the first thing. I left university, so I took a gap year, which was good fun. I thought at the end of that gap year I'd have an epiphany and work out exactly what I wanted to do. Like everyone else in the world, I did not.
Yeah.
And so I went to university to do something that I was good at. Do I, as in the course, do I regret doing the course? Maybe. I think I said to you before that I probably learned, I could count on one hand how many things I learned on that course as opposed to A-levels.
Yeah.
So my growth came from everything I did externally at university, which was brilliant. Led lots of like the sports competitions internally, the varsity leagues and things like that. I ran the whole of the football side of that, which was really good fun. And I also did this thing called Enactus, which is an umbrella of social enterprises. And it's kind of a competition between universities to develop social enterprise businesses and social enterprises. That was good. Learned a lot about that. And I had the opportunity to go out to San Fran in the US where we did the global competition. And I was kind of like the social media exec / overlap for that. I didn't do an awful lot, to be honest, but it was lovely to be on the plane. It was lovely to support our competition team who were brilliant at kind of showcasing what we'd done.
If you'd like to do anything more with social media or kind of the brand side?
I'm not very good at sitting behind a laptop screen.
Right.
And most of my job role at the minute involves that. So I think if I could be behind a camera potentially on content production, I think that would suit my personality more.
Yeah.
Am I interested in social media? Yes, as a tool for attention, I think, more than anything else.
And building community.
Massively. And that's another part. When we go into the marketing stuff later, I've got 3 key pillars, and all of those things are built around community and how to bolster your presence, but as a trusted voice rather than just another brand. So yeah, and I left the university, actually joined the police as a detective for 4 months. Still think, and I think I look like a copper, I act like a copper with my gilet on, but I just couldn't see myself in that world, like the public sector world as well, more broadly.
It's hard.
Yeah, and I respect a lot of individuals. I know lots of people that work in that space, but the speed of innovation, and I said the speed at which my brain works, the two did not complement each other at all. So it was hard because I think that's a job I'd pictured myself doing since I was young. And I think I got kind of sidetracked into business at uni just as a backup option. But yeah, it didn't work out. And so I left that. Did 6 months of doing, kind of irrelevant jobs to tie me over. And then I picked up a consultancy gig doing some marketing consultancy work for a charity in Tunbridge Wells, which I enjoyed, but very small scale. Learned to bolster my skill set there, and then started at Tech Fellow, and we're now 3.5 years in, and we've grown substantially. Our brand is bigger than it's ever been. I think our recognition is bigger than it's ever been. But I think I'll leave it there because there are other things I think I prioritize more.
Well, because I was looking back through your LinkedIn and just having a little scour around. And you mentioned that obviously the company is growing at such a rapid pace, but it's exciting to be a big part of that. And I always say with businesses, when you're building, take employees along with you as much as possible.
Yep.
They need to be involved in the decision-making process. And you very much feel that you are, and you have mentioned before, it's not just the one role that you're doing. You're able to use all of your skills. Yeah,
I think it's a blessing and a curse being what I am like. I'm a problem solver. And so when I see other problems in the business that maybe don't necessarily overlap with where I traditionally meant to be, I try and solve them. Which I enjoy, and that's where I get my kind of buzz from, I suppose. But I am. I think I get a lot of autonomy, which I really appreciate.
It's purpose as well.
Exactly.
When you said you get a lot of fulfillment, that's part of your purpose.
Yeah.
To want to help others.
And that's where I think I get most of my purpose from. I think there's always a part of me that's wanted to do something with like a wider impact as well. And so it's an area that I think we're looking at, well, I'm definitely looking at now, as to how we not only build community and push our knowledge and push others' knowledge in our community further, which is especially what we're doing with the podcast. But we just had our record year at TechFollow in terms of revenue, which is brilliant, because I don't think the last time we had the same year, or the last time we broke the record, our team was bigger than it is now.
Okay.
So we're much more efficient, but we've got better and much stronger relationships. And you said about recruitment, it's tough because recruitment generally, it's a very high turnover industry.
Yeah.
So how do you get that buy-in?
It's quite competitive. Well, I shouldn't say it is quite competitive. It reminds me of consultancy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You want to build strong teams, but you are kind of vying for your own projects. You want to work with good clients, etc. So it can be the same in recruitment. You're spending a lot of time with your candidates, and then on the client side trying to find the best suitable for them.
For sure. And I think touching on where I am, marketing, and I don't think actually many recruitment firms have the setup that we have. I don't think it kind of marketing is almost an indirect impact of sales, which I am buying into because I think that's very strong, but there isn't a mechanism dedicated to marketing. It's much more, it's a secondary effect from good recruitment. And it is, because actions speak louder than words. And a lot of the value comes from the actions in the service that we provide rather than the words that we speak. So that is important. I think it's something to note, but I'm seeing it more regularly now.
Yeah.
A marketing and recruitment overlap. And I'm interested to see where that goes in the next 12 months, because I think that will change a lot.
Do you think with the podcast, you have a lot of overseas guests, more so than the UK, you have a lot in the US? Do you think that is the reason why you want to expand, because you're seeing that potential through others?
Yeah, we've already got a pretty strong working relationship.
Going anyway.
Yeah, I think there's almost, I'd say, when I joined TechFollow 3 years ago, there was a lot less competition in the US for the niche that we work in. That's probably changed now. Much like you talking about talent and managers kind of working on the PR stuff for you, we see that a lot in the US. And so there's a lot more activity and a lot more proactivity with how things are dealt with compared to the UK.
And it needs to be that way, if I'm honest, because obviously the US is a lot bigger than the UK, and in terms of business, it feels more streamlined than it is here. So it's needed, but I see us going the same way, if I'm honest. What do you think?
We will. We operate very differently. I think the working culture is very different as well.
But it's so interesting. So I remember when I moved to London and everything just seemed really fast. It was the hustle and bustle. I come from a very small town in the West Midlands. So for me, it was like this big bad city. Whereas now, obviously being here nearly 4 years, I look around and the working culture, it's not slow, but sometimes it can stagnate, I think.
Yeah, no, I would.
And work-life balance, if we look at the wellness trends, people are really wanting longevity. They're wanting to focus on their mental and physical health. Work can sometimes take a little bit more of a backseat. I see it going that way for certain groups of individuals. For
sure. I think there's also a massive misalignment with this idea of purpose. I don't think many, I was listening to a podcast the other day and they said that 94% of people are not happy in the job they're in.
Really?
Like not fully fulfilled.
Right.
And I think that the natural response to that will be trying to create a better work-life balance so that you can fulfill those things you want to.
It's so difficult because purpose and mission and enjoying what you do in terms of a job, cost of living, the economy, there's so much uncertainty there. That's what springs to mind for me straight away. You have to be careful who you have conversations with, because for some it's, well, I've got to go to work, so I've got to pay bills and I need to afford rent, and London's not exactly the cheapest place to be. So it's difficult, because then you can scream about purpose and shout about it, but sometimes it's just not possible, or it seems like it's unobtainable to some.
Big time. And I literally had a conversation with you, didn't I? I think for the first time since I've been with Tech Fellow in the last 2 months, probably just before Christmas, we're now seeing people move out of New York or wanting to move out of New York, relocate in Austin and Florida.
I want to go over there.
Yeah.
Pitching.
This is your time to slide in.
It's your podcast, definitely.
So, and you're thinking if they're top 1% and they're working for some of the best and well-paying organisations in the world,
absolutely.
and they are feeling the crunch. I mean, we're talking about individuals that are maybe 3 to 5 years experience. The ones that are above that, it's probably a different story because the pay is almost exponential in some ways.
They pay more in terms of the salary and the benefits, but then it costs more to live there. So it's a catch-22 because you're earning more, but then your outgoings are still rising.
Yep.
So it's not balancing out.
No, and I think I'd almost say like there's a talent density. It's so densely populated now because we've got one client now that offers remote working as an option.
Yeah.
Everyone else is hybrid or on-site. And that in itself, I understand the benefits of it completely. There are so many reports on that, but it does mean that talent more broadly doesn't necessarily get discovered or have the opportunity to work and be embedded because the option's not on the table.
And I know a couple of students, internships, apprenticeships with a company, a lot of it's remote. So they'll be working with the marketing team and it will be, I don't know, if they were doing 5 days a week, it would be 3 days at home remote and then possibly 2 days with the team. So it's difficult because I see the benefits of remote working, especially if you're introverted, if you like spending more time at home, but then you're not around the people you need to be and your surroundings really play a part in that from a young age. So I'm seeing it with students, and when they're doing that kind of apprenticeship, internship, wanting to work for a big company, it's not all the time in the office.
Yep.
And it's not changing. That will stay the way it is.
Yeah. And I think it's up to companies to adapt to that as much as it is the other way around.
But then if somebody were to say to me 5 days in the office, I mean, I'd like it, to be honest. The stage I'm at now, I love being out and about and I love being around people, so I wouldn't mind. But you get to Thursday and you think, we've just done 4 days. I'd quite like Friday to be at home.
Yeah,
it's a choice.
Yeah. I'm unique because I like to sound a bit weird. I like to talk to myself. As much as I do with AI, so I dictate when I'm either using ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is fine if I lived in a box in the office, but we also tight knit, and the office can be noisy, so that's fine because everyone's on the phone. But when they're not, I almost thrive in a real hybrid setup where I can get that interaction with devising strategy, talking about things in the morning, and then my ideal would be going home at lunch and then really kind of tunnel vision into what I need to execute in the afternoon.
And that's really interesting because you're not the only one. I probably, if that was offered to me, I probably quite like that. Go into the office and then maybe lunchtime or at least by 1 o'clock you can go home and do your afternoon projects.
Yep.
I plan out my day like that. I normally have meetings and then projects in the afternoon. So if a company were to offer that, it would be good.
Yep.
Or I don't know, I mean, Google and Microsoft, they have the pods or they have specific workspaces. I think even where you can go and have a nap and go and sleep if you're tired.
Yep.
So innovation for companies, you have the tech side, but I also think it comes back to that human return on investment. I go on and on and on about it, but what are we actually doing for our people? Where if we have AI, automation, now we need to embrace each other a bit more.
Yeah.
And who are we? Do you know your team members? So
that's a really interesting conversation because I think the way that we approach, or the organisations that I've been in generally been quite small. And I like that. It's almost like it's not a startup mentality because Tech Fellow have been around for over 10 years, but there's an edge and there's a buy-in that you can get very, very quickly that you wouldn't in a juggernaut of a leading FS firm, let's say. So yeah, where are we? I think there's a disconnect. And the world, we're talking about Gen Alpha, whatever, the way in which our social media is constructed, and this is not an uncommon thing, and I think most people know this, whether they choose to listen or not. It's all about driving dopamine and dopamine. And I did in business, I did do business modules mostly. We did one addiction module because we had to choose something outside of our,
Interesting how you've remembered that as well.
Yeah.
So it had an impact.
I remember it because I didn't have to do the exam because of COVID. So, I was lucky there, and it was a multiple choice, which I was a bit gutted about because I could have been a banker. I
don't like a multiple choice.
No.
If I could just do an essay, it'd be better.
Really? I'm notorious for everything in my head works in bullet points.
Nice.
Because if it doesn't, then I think becomes...
I've had people email me before and say, can you please bullet point and stop sending paragraphs? I just go on tangents.
I think when you've got a creative brain, though, it's quite easy to do that, isn't it?
Bullet pointing for me, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Do it.
Okay.
Anyway.
Talking about bullet points. Where were we? No.
Saying about the course with addiction.
Oh, yeah. So you're talking about, crossing the synapses and all that sort of stuff, and how dopamine sits and what chemical reaction it causes in the brain. Most of our life is now driven at a speed almost fueled by dopamine. And for someone like me, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have so many tendencies. I could almost, I put my house on it, I put my mortgage on it for whatever, and my money for the rest of my life, that I am on that spectrum somewhere. So, which we all are. Yep. I might add, for neurodiverse, it's heavily cited that we're all on the spectrum. Absolutely. Some way, somehow. Yeah. Yeah. And we've done a few actually really, really cool podcast episodes with... Me too. I've had a few people on. And it helps. Conversations. Yeah, it really helps, because I think it's not only a point of, you find a common point, and solutions to try and work around maybe the barriers that you encounter every day. But my brain works quicker than, I'd say, the average person. So how do we break in a world that's innovating and evolving so quickly? This is pushed for an exponential productivity rate, and for things to improve and improve and improve. And I also think that might be feeding into this lack of fulfillment that people are finding or feeling. And I don't know how to solve that. I mean, what is it that they say? Sometimes, if you think about burnout and mental health, it can be because you're doing things that are not aligning with your purpose. And that increases burnout because you feel unsatisfied maybe about your job. So every time you go in, you have negative thoughts, dissociate, self-doubt, etc. So it's a 2 for 2 with that. And I'm not sure whether there could be any links to neurodiversity and the traits that we have. Yep. For me, I'm the same as you in terms of, I need multiple forms of stimulation. If you put me on one project for the next 6 months, I get bored within 30 days. Yep. I need to be, and that's why I think my days now, meetings, projects, going out and about, networking, that gives me different forms of stimulation, which I need. Yep. Otherwise, like I say, I don't feel as fulfilled and satisfied as I want. And there's this, I think, I'd say growing movement, but maybe the changing philosophy really, where... Movement's huge for me as well. Yeah. Can't stay in one place for too long. That's why I've got this. Yeah, I know, I've got a pen with me as well. I think just doing it's almost like finding a pattern. Your brain works, and it helps so much. I don't stop fidgeting. So you've done well to get me sat here for 25 minutes so far. And you say that, and when I used to be in the office a lot, I would fidget quite a bit. I don't do it that much anymore. Even obviously sat down here now, I think it's because I'm focusing on you, so I'm just not thinking about anything else. Yeah. Even when I do work, I wonder why don't know. I don't know the science behind that. Well, I suppose one thing is when you're actually having conversations face to face, it's easier because there's probably more... I love in person. Yeah, me too. Online, I find Teams and Zoom, I can't really see how you're reacting to me. Your hand movements, your gestures, all feels a bit distorted. Yep. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I can see why some people... I mean, when I moved to London, I developed a little bit of social anxiety, and I go to a lot of networking events, and I don't know, I just didn't like it that much because I wasn't used to it. Now, obviously, I thrive in it, but I can see why when you're out of the game for such a long time, remote working, going back to that point, you do start to develop this, oh gosh, pangs, do I have to go in person? And that just evolves over time. How did you deal with that? More networking. I just kept going. I kept telling myself, because obviously I was in corporate world, so I had people around me all the time, but I wanted something different. I wanted to speak to different types of people across industry, not just cyber. So I just kept going to them. I was kind to myself as well. And I said, I don't need to go to every single networking event because I used to push the boundaries a lot. But obviously now it's different. I just go. I don't think about it. So it's more like exposure therapy really for yourself. But it's hard. And I do say to people, if you're thinking about networking or you're thinking about moving to a big city, take it in your stride. Yep. Go to 1 or 2 a month. Don't think about going to 3 or 4 networking events a week. Yep. Because I did that. But obviously I know my limits to a certain extent. I can push and push and push, and luckily I got over it. But if I didn't, I would have had to have stopped. I would say
Too much too soon.
those types of events as well. I would, if I do that, I always think, okay, I'm going to go with some sort of intent.
Yeah.
And I think that then, if you're constantly trying to work out, or if you've got a question to go with, and you're constantly trying to pick up people and solve that problem, then I think you get distracted from maybe the anxiety that you're feeling. Someone told me, and I'm going to tell you this again.
Yeah,
because
that's really true. And carry on, because I'll come back to it.
Scientifically, I've heard this 3 times. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true, but there's a lot of similarity, let's put it that way, between the feeling in terms of the chemical reaction in your brain of fear and excitement. It's just the way you perceive it to be different. Whenever you're fearful, or whenever I'm fearful or whatever, I just convince myself that I'm excited. And if you're able to do that, and you've got the mental strength to do that, and it takes practice, it's like a muscle that you need to tune. Then life takes a very different approach, and I think you're then open to much more.
I think also, and openness is huge, and it's something I talk about, remaining open to people, not closed off. But also, people don't think about you as much as you think about them, or as much as you think they're thinking about you.
Yep.
So when you can kind of retrain your brain to say, well, I'm going to go to this event, introduce myself, and leave it there. If I make a good connection, that's great, but I'm not going to overthink it, because I used to be an overthinker, and I used to self-doubt a lot, and it's taken me years to kind of be happy with myself and who I am. And again, going back to that purpose and mission and who you are as a person, it's the inner work. You've really got to get comfortable with who you are, and I can see why people don't do it, because it's a big journey.
Yep.
You learn a lot.
Yep.
It's so worth it in the end.
I would recommend anyone feeling like that, and it's going to sound maybe a little bit daunting in some ways, but start a podcast about something you're passionate about, because there are so many things I've learned from doing that have helped me in every other area. I think I was always a bit of a leader. I played football growing up from a very young age and was the captain for many, many years. So my voice travels, and I know that. But I think the way in which I communicate has changed a lot based on doing podcasting. And I think it gets me, or it's given me a slightly maybe more authority than I had before, just because of the way I speak. And that sounds obvious, but I don't think you really understand and see the benefits of it until you do it.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to carry on. I was also thinking about something when you were talking, but with podcasting, I always go into it. So for example, today talking to you, my focus is not on myself at all. So if I came in here and I was feeling a little bit anxious about seeing you in person, that would immediately deflect onto, I need to make sure Cam's okay.
Yep.
And when we start, I go into host mode. So as you say, with the authority, it's also just putting others before yourself. And that's why I always talk about acts of service, because if you can, with public speaking, for example, I always try and envision how the audience might feel. Are they understanding and relating to the way I'm coming across? And if not, do I need to explain something better? So as soon as you take yourself out of the equation, it's the same in business, the same in recruitment, consultancy, any industry really where you're having to respond to client requests. If you can just focus on them, it really does minimize the anxiety, I feel.
Yep. And it's a great way. This is a great link back, inadvertently or not, to my pillars of marketing, because it's actually the philosophy I carry through.
I'm just plugging
through everything.
I don't have people like this on the podcast, and trust me, listeners, I won't be having them again.
Well, okay, I'll see the door. No, it's authority, relevance, and trust. Yeah. They are my 3 things, and I think it's a good philosophy for life as well as it is for anything else. If you can build those 3 things, then you start to develop a really strong community around you. And
you explain them a little bit more individually.
Yeah, all of them kind of interconnected in some way. As soon as you start having authority, so that's kind of in your own voice, so people start to understand.
I love that.
And appreciate your knowledge, which again, it might be the way that you convey it, or it's also the way that you source it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be through you. It can be through someone that you're associated with. And that's where that trust comes in, because it's a networking piece. And also where relevance drops in. How do you build trust? It's not an easy one.
It's through authority. And when you said authority can mean so many different things. Having a unique perception of life, for example, and a unique way of thinking. Sometimes I find in society we clump ourselves together in groups and we are too afraid to shine bright and have our own ideas and express them because we're afraid of how society might perceive us. Authority actually is standing up for what you believe in, having a unique way of looking at things, sharing your ideas. And then you build trust through standing out.
Yep.
And then you allow others who feel the same way or who take inspiration and decide, well, now actually I'm going to stand up for what I believe in because I've watched the ripple effect on somebody doing that.
Yep. Yeah, fully. And then you're adding some sort of value, aren't you, to them? Value builds relevance, which, yeah, that ultimately that's the best long-term buy-in you can get from people around you, from relationships that you have with mates and friends, to family, to, you know, it being kind of professional in the professional world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, you know, after a period of time where you sit, and that's important. I think for anyone listening, there's lots of people in the world that don't know where they're going or don't know where they are. And I think if you execute on those three things, just, you know, back yourself a little bit and do that, even if you're not in the position that you necessarily want to be in now, give it 3-5 years. And it might sound quite a long time to some people, but there's so many little iterations of your personality that's developing. You will get to a point where you don't even recognize the person you were that many years ago.
I always say there's seasons of life.
Yeah.
If you're in corporate, that's a season. If you go freelance, that's a season. If you are a founder and you build your own business, that's a season. Personal life's made up of different seasons, family, friendships, relationships. So it's just constant growth. And if you can go into it with a growth mindset, anything's possible.
What would you say is the one biggest thing that's attributed success to your growth or growth to your success?
And I'm the host.
You're the host.
I won't be answering any questions.
No, nothing.
Say it again.
What is... I'm just actually, you give me a chance now to phrase it better. What's the one thing that you can attribute your success or growth to? Or one thing that you want to share?
Gosh. I think two things. I think one, going back to my point of having a unique point of view, not being afraid to stand up for myself, not being afraid to think outside of the box. If it doesn't resonate with London, for example, then maybe it's time for me to go and find my tribe, find my community, because don't be too disheartened, anybody out there, if you haven't found what you're looking for in others. There is a place for you, and I think it's really important you hold on to that, because life can be really tricky and it can throw you curveballs, and you can think, well, I've got this idea, I want to start this business, I want to go freelance, or I want to do this, this and this, but nobody seems to understand me, so where do I sit, and should I just give it all up and pack it all in and go and get a Monday normal 9-to-5 job, which is fine, by the way, for anybody out there who has a 9-to-5, there's nothing wrong with that, but there are big thinkers, I know there are out there. So I think just hold on to the fact that you will find what you're looking for. It just might be relocation, it might be going to another city, it might be starting that venture, and it's a solo journey for a bit. So I think contributing to my growth, number one, is knowing that, all of that, and knowing I do have an ecosystem, I do have support, but it is a solo journey to a certain extent. It's the inner work, it's doing it on your own, it's figuring it out, making sure you're 100%, getting uncomfortable. And then the second part is community. So you do it solo, but at the same time, I do still feel like I have a big community around me. There are people I can call upon. I talk to you. There's so many. I mean, I still talk to people in cyber. I still talk to a lot of people cross industry through the podcast. So as you said, with the podcast and that authority, I've learned so much through others in all industries. So I know I have a big community. So it's doing it on your own, not being afraid to ask for feedback. Feedback is key for me with growth. I need to know what I'm doing isn't just in my head. Delusionment. You need a little bit of delusion, but still need feedback. So there's a lot of things mixed up into growth, but I definitely comes back to inner work, knowing yourself. Once you know that, I think the self-doubt, self-criticism, low self-esteem, rejection and failure, all of that becomes a lot more benign.
I would completely agree. And touching on one thing you said there as well, the 9-to-5 thing, I think you can still be, and it depends how flexible your employer
you can
is.
Flip that around.
Yeah, you can still be a big thinker in a 9-to-5. And some people, if you're talking about work-life balance, actually want that.
Yeah.
I think it's
You can still get promoted and there's still a lot of growth. And I fully understand that. That's why I think it's such a hard conversation to have, because there is this one category of people who are doing the 9 to 5 and they're so happy. And I can see that. I think it's fantastic.
Yep.
There are just a few more different groups who do think really big. The hustle is for them. There are no limits. For me, I work every day of the week. I am just so invested. And I think, again, going back to that purpose, what gets you up? Keeps you going.
What gets you up? And that can change as well.
Yeah.
Not only seasonally, but weekly, and daily. So I think being consistent in the times where you desperately feel like you don't want to be consistent will get you growth.
And flipping it around, what do you think's contributed to your growth so far? And then what do you think will contribute to it in the future?
I never used to be so in school. I'll touch on it very, very briefly. In school, I worked so hard, ridiculously hard, to be honest. I regret it in some ways. And I also played a lot of sport. We were talking 5-6 days a week. So I was burning the candle at both ends. And I had a period of time where I burnt out, like completely physically burnt out for about 16 months, I would say. A lot of my day was spent in bed. So those first years of sixth form were not particularly fun for me. And it was a massive period of reflection. And although not clinically depressed, I was feeling very, very low. And to be honest, I probably was. So that's a point. I always say the famous phrase, you hit rock bottom and you can start building again. But for me, a lot changed. My perception of life changed. My perception of or my relationships and how I want to build something has changed. My motivation's always been there, because I ended up putting it into work and sport all the time. But not playing sport for 16 months completely kind of unraveled me, because that's what I used to thrive off of. So whether it was the success of a team or whatever, that's what I used to gun for every day. That's what used to get me up. So I had to change that. And I think those things, as well as having a brilliant family around me and a brilliant support network, I've been with my now wife for 10 years. So she's seen me change a hell of a lot.
Crazy.
And
you're so young, Cam.
I know. Yeah, no, it's scary. I don't look young. And don't I get taken don't I get taken a piss out of it all day, every day for it.
Do you think it's because you don't have much hair?
We'll get that way. I'm pleased to see that there's not too much shine coming off of it.
It's fine.
So what's contributed to my growth, that period of time, is probably the biggest impact on it.
Because you had glandular fever, so going back to what actually was going on there.
That kind of kick-started it. I just got it because I got it, and I'm not sure where I contracted it from. So your immune system takes a hit.
Absolutely.
And the way that, I suppose, my brain work changed, because I now know that I give myself a set target of, let's say I give myself like a 40-minute block to get something done. But then I am different. I need a 20-minute break, because if I would continually do that for 8 hours a day, I'd last 3 days and I'd be done. And it's just becoming more aware, even of some of the health things that are interlinking with the way that you view processes and systems. And I go on about it because I know there's kind of overlap, I suppose, in the way that my brain now works and is wired to how I operate in a professional sense as well. But it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. And that it was about 2 or 3 years probably of really like challenging what my old preconceptions of success were. And I think also going into every day trying to source like some enjoyment from it. You can be, I suppose different situations, different environments and different things will be served to you all the time. And it's not uncommon to hear, it depends how you react to it as to, what you make of it basically, which is true. But there's probably another level to it where I would say it not only depends on how you react to it, but then how you not even take it going forward. I'm not even sure how to express this, to be honest. I just think it's a mental thing where I'm like, okay, maybe feeds into the bigger goal. Okay, so how is this serving me? So it's not only like, what can I take from it and how can I react from it? But actually, long term, how do I see growth propelling because of this? And I've got to now, it sounds a lot to do in a period of time where maybe you're not served the best hand, but I think they are maybe my 3 methods to ground myself and to then think, actually, how can I use it going forward? If that makes sense. It's probably quite a wordy answer, but...
No, it does make sense. But I really love how it sounds like going through this from such a young age, as you say, it rewired your brain But you must be so proud. The first thing that came to mind when you're going through something like this and then you're getting to the other side, you reflect back and think, I'm so proud that I managed to get through that. Because like I say, at such a young age, you're still developing.
Mm-hmm.
And not being able to be around your friends all the time, being at home, feeling possibly isolated, getting through the other side and actually still having hope.
Yep.
And then obviously, as you say, I feel that success is what you make of it, really. If you want financial success, business success, or community, it's whatever you want that to be. So it's flipping that on its head as well.
Yep. Yeah. And I think success, again, I said the definition of everything changes over time. So you've almost potentially outgrown London. I think that can only be, or could only be, temporary. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you're never just confined to a decision that you make.
No.
There's always ways to leverage things, and there are politicians and there are business people and there are advisors and coaches that do this really well across the globe in terms of leveraging things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily saying that they use it in a good way, but that skill, it's like negotiation. But negotiation, it's almost like an internal negotiation. If you get good at that and good at managing it and being aware of when it's happening, I think you'll find success quicker.
And it's transferable skills, isn't it? It's if you move out of a city, move away from a job into another industry, it's always transferability that you can take with you, people that you meet, skills that you pick up, same for politicians, etc. It's just looking at things a bit differently. As you say, it's not forever. If I moved out, I'd come back. I'd always think of London as my home. It's where I think I truly found my identity. So it holds a special place in my heart. But and it's something that I've been thinking about recently. Nobody really ever talks about kind of grief and sadness that come with change. And obviously I'm going through a lot of changes. You've been through a lot of changes in life. We don't talk about it enough, and how actually it's okay to grieve for what once was. And nostalgia is a big thing. And everybody seems to be tapping into that more and more because we want to know what it felt like to be born in the 90s. But so that's an interesting concept as well, which I've been thinking more and more about. It's okay to feel sad by change and moving forward. You know it's the right thing, and I think it goes back to comfort zone. We hold on to what we feel comfortable and feel safe because risk, even when it's calculated, can be hard. Thinking about that recruitment and marketing, going right back to the beginning, a lot of that resonates.
I think it's common knowledge that you grow more in your discomfort than you do when you're comfortable. I mean, that's just an obvious thing to say, but
I think because you're pushed.
Yeah.
You're pushed to make decisions. You're pushed to speak to certain people because otherwise nothing will happen.
I'm opening this up not just as a question to you, but maybe a question to me so I can think about it. If someone isn't naturally that way inclined to be proactive and push hard, how would that person, and they wanted to become more like that, how would they develop that?
I mean, for me, I always say when I was at school and growing up, I didn't really have that much motivation. I did really well in my GCSEs. I was terrible at my A-levels, and then I went to university, eventually managed to get there, God knows how, but I did. And I thrived doing my bachelor's and my master's, but I never really had that tenacity for life when I was younger. I think definitely changing my environment, coming to London, even during uni, because I was surrounded by so many different people and ways of life and thinking. So my environment contributes definitely to thinking outside of the box, wanting more. Who I surround myself with makes a big difference. If I was surrounded by people who didn't want the same things as me or didn't think bigger, then that could really have an impact and an effect on me. So yeah, environment's key. But no, it hasn't been innate. I didn't grow up with that. It just developed over time. And I think community plays such a big part. I talk about it because I delivered a TEDx on it, and I really, people keep saying to me, what's this community all about? And I say it's about the people. But community is everywhere. Every person you speak to could be forming in your community.
That goes back to the leverage point.
Yeah.
I think actually there's a lot of people that don't leverage the relationships in the right way. I'm not saying just trying to generate value from something that doesn't need value from it.
And I'm not saying, take the mick and view everybody as, well, I need something from you, because people can sieve that out very quickly.
Absolutely.
I can.
You always want to give before you take. That's, again, I think it's just generally good life advice, because if you can do something for somebody else and I suppose there's always a way, if you're clever enough, even if you're giving something to someone else, which is serving your purpose, you can inherently take something back through the process of giving. And it's not necessarily just a give and take.
Yeah. And what do you think? So if there's somebody and listeners out there, if you're thinking to yourself, I want what Alex and Cam are saying, I want to be more, I want to have more tenacity, I want to get out in the community, I want to think bigger, I want that. What would you say in terms of strategy? I think my last point would definitely be what I said earlier on. Don't do everything all at once. Take your time. Figure out exactly what you want. And it's such a tricky question because that's so what it's taken me years. I mean, people ask me now, it looks like you're having everything overnight. It's been maybe 5-6 years, my whole corporate life, trying to figure out what am I doing?
Yeah. It's the golden question, isn't it? I think every podcast is answering this question in the world in some way.
You're different on this podcast.
You're thinking bigger. How would I answer that question?
Think bigger.
I would
think
say
it's be daring.
Yeah, boldness is one thing, for sure. I would say find something that gives you a buzz, but sometimes those things that give you a buzz are either not good for you long term or they don't feed into what your long term vision should be. So I don't want to go to like, where's your wife? Because that's a whole new thing. Imagine you had this. I guess this is where I sit sometimes. Literally, you almost have to embody. Let's say I've got 24 hours of my life left. What would I want to achieve in that 24 hours that would make me proud?
Yeah.
And I think if you do that across not just one day, but do that across 3 days or 1 week, because 1 day is a lot of pressure. I feel like some people take that and go, "Oh, bloody, I've got to smash through all my life goals for
sleep."
Yeah, full sloth mode.
Just go to bed. I think give it all up. Why not?
Would you not eat anything?
Probably not.
Would you not?
Maybe breakfast.
Okay.
Then I'm off to sleep. I'll see you in the next slide.
What would you have for breakfast?
I'm quite boring. Let's not get into it.
Anything on top?
Porridge, peanut butter, oat milk, or soy milk.
Yeah, no, I back the oat milk. Have you ever tried Biscoff on porridge?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah, it's good.
Not for a long time. That's quite naughty and that's really sweet. Yeah. I don't think it's that healthy either.
Like a little bit of stewed apple in there as well. I suppose you can give and take. Yeah.
You have for breakfast. Completely off topic.
I don't have breakfast. I went to uni in Nottingham, so that's
potato as well. Yeah, I love all the good stuff.
Yeah. I don't tend to eat breakfast that much at all, really.
Sometimes I don't skip lunch, but I have a really hearty breakfast.
Okay.
That is the best meal of the day for me because I feel like I'm more efficient in the morning.
Yep.
Early hours, and then 1-2 p.m. I just really I need to either get outside. That's when, if I were traveling, it would be the best time of day.
Yep.
I need a break.
I completely agree. I think almost though, food for me, don't know if this is normal or not, it slows me down no matter what I have in the morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I almost, set myself up. I'm super productive in the mornings.
Yeah.
I can smash out, almost a day's worth of work in 4 hours if I need to.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And then it's the more creative stuff in the afternoon that I can take a little bit slower and stimulates me in a different way. Yeah.
There's something I was going to say off the back of that. Do you go running? I go running.
So
I need breakfast.
Yep.
There's no way or how. I could never skip it.
I play football and I play a full game on no breakfast. So,
God.
But I just think I'm much
healthy?
better. I don't know.
I feel like Cam's just being daring on this podcast, saying all of these things. We're going to get feedback and people will say that's not right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm built like that. I just am.
But then you have breakfast after. So you're having it regardless. I think that's my main point, just to make sure we say you're having breakfast. You don't ever skip it fully.
Yeah.
You don't have anything.
No, usually eat about 11. But it keeps me. But then I have a bigger dinner though.
Don't judge. Let's just say that.
There's some judgment coming from that corner.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering where this fuel and energy is coming from.
I don't know.
Mentally.
Yeah. I don't know.
You obviously drink coffee.
No.
Well,
no, I don't drink coffee. I am literally water through.
Running on fumes. Running on life.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe we leave it there for today. My last question. Well, no, because there's 2 other questions really that we haven't spoken about today. So my questions that I want to finish off the episode with, thinking about young people. So going right back to the beginning with recruitment and marketing, we obviously offer out strategy on the podcast. You don't recruit really for entry level. So I think talking about the market, what would you offer out in terms of strategy for? There are graduate programs out there. A lot of the big tech companies, definitely in cyber, they do recruit young people for the grad programs. There's opportunity there for sure. We know this. But in terms of, and I actually did go through a recruitment agent for my very first corporate role. There are a few out there, but it is few and far between. What would you recommend out?
I think the biggest advice that I can give is blogs, articles,
Yeah.
literally stay on top of everything, because I think you'll stand out. Like you said, we don't serve, let's say, the first 2 years, the individuals within their first 2 years.
It's a big market, but then actually from a recruitment company side, not that big.
It's not big, and the firms that we work with, I think, generally want to get ahead of the curve, and they do a lot of graduate planning, a lot of events that they attract the individuals to directly. They're not necessarily that they've got an influx of people that they are interested in those first 2 years. It isn't until those people refine those skills that we can help in terms of placing them there.
We do have a newsletter with the podcast called Chancing It, and what Cam's just said about resources, anything that we've mentioned throughout, anything that he mentions after will be in the newsletter, because resources should be for free. We should just be sharing our knowledge as much as possible. I'm a huge advocate for that, so anything that you can share for the listeners would be great.
Resources, right? That don't ever be afraid to reach out to the people that you want to reach out to on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
If you go with some sort of value proposition,
reach out to Cam.
Feel free to DM me. I am very happy to offer advice. I don't have, an encyclopedia of knowledge in some instances.
Be surprised at how much you actually know.
Yeah, but because recruitment is so salesy in so many ways, and it is so relationship based, understanding how to connect with an individual, not on the literal sense of LinkedIn, is something that I think I've got a lot better at.
Yeah.
So if you always lead with value. And there are multiple ways you can bolster your skill set. I said before, podcast is one thing. This is an unbelievable way of showcasing so many of your skills without ever having to say it. I suppose the eloquence of blog writing as well, it's a dying art form in so many ways, but it can be really good for SEO. So if you're building a personal brand, it's a strong way. Another really good, there's a few individuals on LinkedIn. Again, I'm not sure if I can share them or not. So I'll hold them and share those names. What you're
saying, yeah.
But they're very good at building personal brand. Yeah. And we're in a world now where you want to tie into the organizations you work for and build with them. Equally, you have to stand out. And so even like different big tech firms offer free courses for upskilling. Yeah. Do 2 or 3 completely different ones, because I think then it's also helping you understand maybe where you align.
I can't remember what course I'm attending something this week. Who is it with? But it's an AI course, and they're teaching me they're talking about the latest trends with AI agents and how to set it up with their services. I don't want to get the name wrong, so I won't say who I think it's with, but free courses online, webinars. You can just attend or in person. I'm such an advocate for lifelong learning. Yep. I do not pretend to know everything at all, and that will stay with me forever. I'm always open to upskilling, learning from other people. If you do feel a little bit nervous about reaching out to people on LinkedIn, so do I. I just can't help myself. I listen to podcasts every single day of the week. So more often than not, I will listen to somebody, really enjoy what they've said, and then I'll go and find them online and drop them a note and just say, really appreciated the episode, really love the trends and strategies you spoke about. So don't worry that you might not get a response. I don't get a response all the time, but when I do, it's always positive. When you go into it with good intentions, and we spoke about that before, you don't just go into it with a sales pitch or trying to get something out of the other person. People are really receptive of that, and they really want to help, and they're a lot more open than you think. So everything Cam's just said, don't be afraid to do that, and we will share resources as well after this.
People are people.
Yeah, people relate to
everyone's got their own weaknesses, their own, uncertainties, their own things that they don't back themselves to do. And I think the more podcasting has helped me realize that, the more you lean into that, and the more you develop just literally on a personal level, and you connect with someone on a personal level, the longevity for you is so much more beneficial.
And I will link Cam's podcast, Tech Fellow, because I'm on it, so you should listen to it.
There's the personal
There's some fantastic episodes on there that you should listen to, so I will link that, because we don't gatekeep. I'm there's so many podcasts out there that I admire
Yep.
and I watch and I think, oh, I'd love to be there one day. So anything that I can recommend out, I will. My second to last question is, what's the best guest that you've had on your podcast? Because people ask me this all the time. What's one or two guests that really stood out for you and you haven't been able to stop thinking about them? And I have a couple in my head that since they came on, they changed my way of thinking because of how vulnerable they were. And obviously with this podcast, Take a Chance on You, guests come on and they do relay a vulnerable story. Cam has very much done that with his experience of having glandular fever, going through low mood and mental health in a way, bringing that to the surface can really help others.
Yep.
Is there anything you've had like that, or even from a business perspective?
Best guest. That's a tough one. We're now only 35 guests, I think.
I know. I do like to just caveat that and say all of the guests are fantastic.
Yeah,
there are just certain moments which you don't forget.
Well, in terms of prestigiousness, we had a guest called Phil Venables, who's basically
I think you've spoken about this before.
Yeah, he's the founding. Almost, I don't know if this is a good label to give him, but I think everyone would appreciate this. He's almost like the godfather of cybersecurity.
Okay.
He was the first person to be at a CISO at board level in the world, also I think. And so he is a benchmark for everyone else. From a vulnerability point of view, there are some seriously cool guests that we've had on.
Have you spoken about mental health on Tech Fellow?
Yeah. Chris Kennedy, one of the early ones. He was the ex-CISO at Citadel, or let's say a financial services, large, well-known financial services firm. He was out of work for, I think, just over a year because he couldn't cope with it anymore. And actually you find, maybe this is a common theme, most big CISOs, the way that they unwind or de-stress is go find somewhere in the country and go and take a long old walk. And it's crazy how many people do that.
And I tell you, when I say to you that recently, the last 6 months, I've really gotten into going for walks without headphones.
Yep.
Silence.
Yeah.
I need silence now. And I didn't think I'd ever get to that point.
We're getting old.
Getting old. I'm not going to tell you how old I'm turning this year because it's frightening. But I always listen to music or a podcast. I always have some form of stimulation throughout the day, but there are moments where I can't speak to anybody. I need silence and that's it. So it's interesting because that reminds me of country, just Zen. I'm into meditation as well a lot now.
Yep, silence of mind.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strength in that, to be fair.
Cam's spoken about so many different things today. Recruitment, marketing, the current landscape. Is there anything you'd like to round up with?
Automation, you've already touched on it there, is there. It's going to grow. It's going to exponentially grow as well.
There are a lot of risks, but...
Yeah. Risk management's a big thing.
Be aware of that, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the highest growing areas, I suppose, because it's really hard to decipher what the risk is until it's present in front of you. And half the jobs of the people that we recruit for and the teams that we recruit into are trying to do exactly that. It's a super exciting space. It's intriguing. Like I said, there are CISOs that we speak to that things will change literally minute to minute. Like we can have a call at the beginning of the day and end of the day, and their strategy for a certain vertical that they're working has changed, and that happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for me to say what am I most excited about, I think it's the positive impact of AI on the world. I think it's not spoken about enough. There's a lot of scaremongering. But I'm thinking more in cases like the medical side. It's super interesting.
Yes.
And also some of the biotech stuff, some of the startup space. We know plenty of early founders.
Yeah.
It's a new kind of spin-off that we're doing of our own podcast. And there is a lot of growth.
I mean, Tech Fellow, like I said, the podcast is fantastic, what you're building in the recruitment space. I do think from this conversation there could still be a bridge with early careers.
Yeah.
In terms of where generationally they're going. So Gen Alpha learning about entrepreneurship, leadership from a very young age, that will naturally change recruitment in the future. Possibly you might open up your doors for entry level, not just Cam and Tech Fellow, not just the recruitment. This is all recruitment. This is the industry I'm talking about in marketing. Big time.
Entry level, this is probably my final thing to say, analysts won't look like analysts anymore.
Yeah.
They won't look like analysts anymore. And engineers become builders and developers. And so you're right, those entry-level roles might actually be kind of, you need 2 years of experience, not in the literal sense, but you need 2 years of exposure to understand how to develop and build those tools in the first place. Pure analyst work, I mean, anyone thinking that they'll exist in 3 years' time is not in tune with what's happening.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. I think people, again, it goes back to fearing change a little bit and realising that no, you can't potentially stay in the same role forever anymore.
Yep.
You will have to look at your skill set, you will have to look at what you're passionate about and pivot. Pivoting we don't talk about enough. It's the same as burnout. It's fulfillment, satisfaction. You will have to go and do another job. So it's keeping that in mind as well. But I think we're going to wrap up there for today. That was Cam from Tech Fellows. So many strategies, so many recommendations talking about recruitment and marketing. We will put all of the resources out after this. Let's take a chance on you, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.